All right, so let's hit some other slope topics. I think you'll be pretty good at this. So remember, on all four of the lines I'm giving you, they're called slope-intercept form. It's y equals mx plus b. So if I ask you what the slope is when you're in y equals mx plus b, it is a cinch to answer. So if it's y equals mx plus b, do you see that the 3 is in the place of m? So the slope is 3. What's the slope of y equals negative 7nx plus 1? Well, the slope is negative 7, so say m equals negative 7. What's the slope of y equals 2x minus, or 2 ninths x minus 6? You know it. It's m equals 2 ninths. And last but not least, can you write down the answer to the slope on number 4 before I say it? Of course you can. I bet you said m equals negative 7/4. Remember to label m equals, because if you're talking about slope, you need to attach it to an m so your work is clear. Now, do you remember that if you have an equation of a line in ax plus by equals c form, that's called the standard form of the line? Well, if I ask you to find the slope, it's not obvious the way it's written currently. There are two ways that you can find the slope. One way is method 1, rewrite in y equals mx plus b form. Well, if I want to rewrite 3x minus 5y equals 6 in y equals mx plus b form, I need to isolate or solve for y. That means I need to solve for negative 5y first. Well, do you see that I would have to subtract 3x from the left to the right-hand side? It's fine to leave it the way I've got it, but I don't really like it that way. So I will typically say negative 3x plus 6 instead of the other way around, because that feels more natural. Well, what you do to one side now, you have to do to the other. Well, I want to divide both sides by negative 5. So I've got 1y on the left. And do you remember that you need to separate the two fractions on the right? So I see negative 3 over negative 5. That would be positive 3/5 x. And then I see a positive 6 over a negative 5. Positive over a negative is negative 6/5. Neither 3/5 nor 6/5 reduces, so I'm done. And so now you're ready to answer the slope. Well, I've got it in y equals mx plus b form, so m is 3/5, and I'm done. Well, look, guys, do you see that the 3 over 5 is also here? I can see 3, and I've got a 5, but it's negative 5. Well, you may not know this, but there is a slope formula. If you have standard form, the slope formula is negative a over b. So if you use this formula whenever you have standard form, you can say the negative a is negative 3. The b is negative 5, and negative over negative becomes positive. So see, I get 3/5 this way, just like I did with the first method. So which one should you use? Well, there's benefits to both. Most people are not going to forget this green method of going from standard to slope-intercept form. So if you're really nervous, like when you're taking the ACT, for instance, the green method might be a better method because you're less likely to forget it when you're nervous. But in class, where you're not as nervous, it might be good to practice this faster method so you move along more quickly. And the more you practice it, the better you're going to get at it. Also, the less likely you'll forget it when you are nervous. But let's practice just another couple of examples. Okay, so I'm going to use the green method first. So I've got standard form. I want slope-intercept form, so I want to isolate y. That means I have to isolate 2y first. I want to subtract 8x to the right-hand side. I need to divide both sides by 2. I get 1y on the left. Now, on the right, I have negative 8 over positive 2. That would be negative 4x. And I also have negative 1 over positive 2, which is just negative 1/2. Then I can say, oh, okay, well, the slope is right here. So the slope is negative 4. I can also use the original equation that's in ax plus by equals c form. I'm going to memorize that the slope formula when you're in this ax plus by equals c form is negative a over b. Negative a is 8, b is 2, and if I reduce that, I get negative 4, so it matches. Now look, I want to show you something that will also help you. Notice that 8 and 2 were both positive, but the slope turned out negative. So I'm trying to show you if the signs of A and B are the same here, you'll have a negative in your slope. Look at the previous problem. Here, you had a positive A, but a negative B. So if the signs of the A's and the B's are opposite, the slope winds up being positive. You don't have to memorize that, but if you recognize little tricks like that, it'll help you move a little faster and kind of double check your work. So one more, all right? This one's going to be pretty easy to take from standard form to slope-intercept form, because all I have to do is one step, and that's add the 4x over, and then the slope is right there. All I have to do is say the slope is 4. Again, notice if I'm asking you a slope question, then you're always going to start out by saying m equals to emphasize that you're finding slope. Now, if I do the slope formula, since I've got ax plus by equals c form, I know the slope formula is negative a over b. So do you all see that a is negative 4 and b is positive 1? So negative of a negative of 4 is positive 4 over 1 is just 4. So once again, I get my answers to match using the pink and green method versus the blue method. And once again, notice my A was negative, my B was positive. If A and B start out being opposite signs, your slope will turn out positive. If A and B start out being the same sign, your slope will wind up negative when you're using this method. So guys, we are done with the third part of your lesson. They're getting a little faster, aren't they?